So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, needless to say this, just watching this lecture would be job half done, because if you just watch this lecture, then these current affairs would quickly skip your memory. Therefore, you need to solidify them in your memory at least till your exams. For that, you need to revise this lecture. Now, you can revise this lecture just after watching it from the notes provided by us. And these notes are provided on our Telegram channel. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. Okay? So yeah, enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the lecture. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So let's begin. So daily current affairs, 19th of December, Friday, and here is the list of topics that we shall cover. So number one on this list is India-Russia Logistics Agreement, RELOS. So what is this logistics agreement between India and Russia, which was concluded or signed when Vladimir Putin was in India? So how significant it is for India and what benefits will accrue to both India and Russia? We'll talk about this. Then recently some bad news has come out for emerging economies like India, and that is that Japan has decided to increase interest rates. Now, how does this move of Japan will impact India and other countries, developing countries like India? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about how states regulate private schools, because recently Delhi government came out with a bill where they have capped the fees charged by private schools. Now, can they do it? Are they violating any fundamental right by doing it? Okay, what have the courts ruled on this matter? We'll talk about this issue. Okay, so topic number one is clear-cut related to international relations portion of your UPSC syllabus. Topic number two, economics. And topic number three, polity portion of your UPSC syllabus. Okay, so these are the three news items that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number one, and that is India-Russia Logistics Agreement. Now listen to me carefully. I'll explain this topic with an example. Let's suppose Indian Navy wants to expand its footprint. Currently, it is operating in the Indian Ocean, but it wants to operate in Arctic Ocean as well, Arctic region as well. Let's suppose an aircraft carrier of Indian Navy is operating in Arctic Ocean and it requires urgent refueling. Where will it go? What if Russia provides its ports for refueling, repair and maintenance to Indian ships? That would be beneficial for India. So if Indian Navy has access to Russian ports, that is good. Similarly, when Russian Navy is operating in Indian Ocean region, it has similar access to Indian ports for refueling, repair and maintenance. Yes, let's suppose Indian Air Force is flying its fighter jet over the Arctic Ocean region and it requires urgent refueling, repair, maintenance. It has access to Russian air bases. Similarly, Russian fighter jets have access to Indian air bases. This is the cooperative agreement that is recently signed. Okay, that was recently signed between India and Russia. Now, with this agreement, India will now be able to expand its footprint to northern regions, Arctic regions as well. And Russian Navy, Air Force, Defense Forces, and commercial ships can operate in Indian Ocean region as well. It is a mutually beneficial agreement. That's what this agreement is all about. Now, a similar agreement was signed between India and USA many years back. Okay. Now, many in USA are saying that this is wrong. India cannot have similar agreements with Russia and USA. But India tried to balance the two sides. Okay, we had similar agreements with Russia. We had similar agreements with USA. Basically, you're understanding. USA is not happy with this, but Russia is. And it is mutually beneficial for India as well as Russia. Clear? So what is this logistics agreement all about? Let's talk about this in detail. Okay, so let's quickly begin. I hope you understood the gist of the matter. I hope you did, okay, with that example that I just quoted. All right, so let's begin. So India-Russia Logistics Agreement. So what was in the news? India-Russia have formalized the reciprocal exchange of logistics support. So this access to seaport for fuel, repair and maintenance is logistics support. Okay, so reciprocal. Reciprocal means mutual. Russian ships in India, Indian ships in Russia. Agreement enhancing military interoperability and strategic reach across key regions like Arctic. India can go to the Arctic region. Russia can come to the Indo-Pacific region. This pact mirrors various logistics agreements with USA. Now, in the end, we'll compare this RELOS with the agreements that India has with USA, similar agreements that US and India have. We'll do a comparison also. Okay. First, let's talk about RELOS. So RELOS, as you can see, the full form is Reciprocal Exchange of Logistics Support. Okay. What will it cover? It regulates movement of troops. For example, Indian troops in Arctic region need a resting place, refueling, re-weaponizing place. That is there. Warships and aircraft between India and Russia. So troops are covered, warships and aircrafts are covered. Okay. Which facilities are covered? Enables mutual use of airspace, ports, bases, air bases for refueling, repair, supplies, and maintenance. It applies to joint exercises. Let's suppose India and Russia are having joint military exercise in Arctic region. So Indian warships can go to Russia. Similarly, a joint exercise in Indo-Pacific, Russian warships can come to India. Okay. Training, humanitarian assistance, and disaster relief. So HADR is humanitarian assistance and disaster relief for this also, with flexibility for other scenarios via mutual consent. If there is a need for other areas as well, or other reasons that India wants to access Russian ports, well, through mutual consent, they can do so. Okay, so it's a very useful agreement. Logistic support covers medical aid, berthing, faster maintenance, repair, especially of Russian origin warships. We have some Russian warships, we have some Russian fighter jets, Su-30. So that would get quicker maintenance in Russia. So it's a beneficial agreement for all. Okay. Now, what benefits are there for India and Russia? If we talk about India, India gains access to over 40 Russian bases from Murmansk in Arctic to Vladivostok in Pacific, extending Navy and Air Force operational range from Indo-Pacific and Northern Sea Route integration with international North-South trade corridor from Russia to India. Okay, so India will increase its footprint, geographical spread. This reduces deployment times also. Indian ships can park in Russian bases very close to China. So if need arises, very quickly we can move our troops close to China. You're understanding the point, right? Cut costs for long-range mission, bolster humanitarian and disaster relief in distant region. Russian platforms in India's inventory benefit from quicker repairs. Of course, if we have F-16s, those won't be repaired properly in Russia. But Su-30, Sukhoi 57, if we get those, or S-400, well, they would get quicker repair in Russia because these are of Russian origin. Okay. Now, what benefits are there for Russia? Russia secures reciprocal access to Indian ports, naval bases, airfields, strengthening its Indian Ocean presence. Because it wants to increase Indian Ocean presence because China is in Indian Ocean, America is in Indian Ocean, France is in Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is the new theater of activity. So Russia also wants to increase its presence over there. So that is the thing. Enhanced logistic support aids Russian forces during joint operations, exercises, transits through key maritime choke points. So there are some sea lanes of communication or shipping lanes which can be disrupted anytime. So Russia wants to keep its navy over there so that its commercial ships are not disrupted. For that, it needs support of Indian ports in Indian Ocean. So this is there. Okay. By the way, comparison between this Russian agreement and these three agreements that we have signed with USA. So a similar agreement to RELOS with USA was LEMOA, Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. Then we have a communication agreement also, COMCASA, with USA for interoperability of our communication, 5G, 4G. And Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, BECA. BECA is basically exchange of satellite communication, satellite information. Okay, so we have three agreements with USA already. They were signed in 2016, 18, 20. Now we have one with Russia also. That means India is hedging its bets. India is not completely dependent on USA because like recently, USA can turn around and see that India is completely dependent on it. So USA can bully us. That is why we are hedging our bets. We don't want to be completely reliant on any one particular country. Make sense? So it is significant in that regard. Basically, balance of power. We are balancing powers. USA, Russia, China, everywhere. Okay? All right. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is Japan raises interest rates. Now you see, why does a country raise interest rate? Let's talk about RBI in India, for instance. Okay? And then you'll understand why Japan did so. So when does RBI increase repo rate or interest rates? Whenever inflation is very high and rupee is weakening, at that point RBI tends to increase interest rates. Because when you increase a country's interest rates, inflation comes down. And when inflation comes down, your currency starts to strengthen, increase its value vis-a-vis dollar, appreciate. Now, for many years, Japan was having near zero interest rates, near zero. Okay. And these near zero interest rates were kept so as to boost liquidity in Japan. But of late, Japan is suffering from inflation. And Japanese yen, the official currency of Japan, yen, that has depreciated considerably. Because of which, imports to Japan have become expensive. Inflation is very high. So to combat inflation, to basically reduce depreciating pressure on yen and make yen appreciate, well, Japan decided to increase its interest rates by 25 basis points. What is 25 basis points? 0.25%. Okay, this is 25 basis points. 50 basis points would be 0.5%. 75 basis points would be 0.75%. 100 basis points would be 1%. Okay, so Japan decided to increase its interest rates by 25 basis points. Okay, to safeguard itself from inflation and depreciating currency, domestic currency. Now, because of this, Indians are not happy, and many emerging developing economies of the world are not happy. Now, what impact does yen, Japanese yen, have on developing economies like India? What sort of connection is there? Why are we so unhappy with this increase in interest rates by yen? You have to understand this connection to understand why we are sad, right? So we'll explore this connection. Okay, so let's straight away dive in. So Japan raises interest rates. So what happened what was in the news? Bank of Japan raised its policy rate to 0.75%, a 30-year high on December 19, 2025, ending decades of near zero rates. So for 30 years, it was close to zero, the interest rates. They have decided to increase it. Okay. Last time it was 0.5%. Now they have increased it to 0.75%, an increase of 25 basis points. This shift threatens the yen carry trade, harming Indian markets. Now, the reason why Indian markets would be harmed is because of something called yen carry trade. Okay, yen carry trade. Now, yen is the official currency of Japan. What do you mean by this carry trade? Okay, let's talk about this. I'll explain this yen carry trade to you. Okay, so there are people who want to take advantage of low interest rates in Japan. So let's suppose Japan was offering very low interest rates. Okay, whereas India was giving loans at very high interest rates. So there will be an investor. What will this investor do? They will borrow money from Japan. Let's suppose they'll borrow money. They borrow a lot of money from Japan, and they're not worried about borrowing money from Japan because interest rates are extremely low. Okay, they borrow money from Japan, convert it into rupees, and lend it or invest it in India. Now, why are they doing it? Because to borrow money from Japan, they have to give interest rates of 0.5%. But when they'll invest money in India, they will get a return of 7%. So they are making a net gain of 6.5%. Yes, they are doing so. Make sense? So this 6.5% encourages many investors to do this. This entire process is known as carry trade. And because people are borrowing in yen, it is called yen carry trade. So this 6.5%, this arbitrage attracts people. The more is this arbitrage, the more investors would come and you do this. Okay. Now this is beneficial for India because it increases foreign investment in India, foreign capital in India. So India gets a lot of foreign capital, which appreciates India's rupee, brings in a lot of liquidity in India, investment in India. India stands to gain. Now listen to me carefully. For the past many months now, India is reducing its interest rates from 7 to 6.75 to 6.5, and India is continuously reducing its interest rates. And recently, Japan increased its interest rates. Don't you think this arbitrage is getting narrow? Because this arbitrage is getting narrow, now less foreign investors would be interested in carrying out this yen carry trade. Yes, this would mean that foreign investment and foreign capital inflows foreign capital inflows in India, they would reduce. And when they would reduce, this would put a depreciating pressure on rupee. Rupee would further weaken. Plus, what has happened? Well, now Japan has increased interest rates to 0.75. Now, people who had already bought money or already borrowed money from Japan, well, now when they'll pay back that money, they'll have to pay back in higher interest rates. Yes, so their financial position also weakens. There are many companies in India who have directly bought from Japan, borrowed money from Japan. Now, for them, debt repayment has become expensive. So many financial companies in India would become unstable. Their balance sheet would become unstable. Why? Because yen has appreciated. They have to pay back money in yen, plus interest rates have risen. And because of this reduced arbitrage, many existing foreign investors in India would sell their foreign investment and take their money out and give it back to Japan. So foreign capital inflows would reduce, outflow from India would increase. This would further weaken rupee. Rupee already breached 90 mark. $1 is equal to 90. This would put further pressure on rupee. Okay, that is why we are scared. That is why we are not happy. Because of this yen carry trade or dependence on this yen carry trade. You understand this point now? Okay, so let's talk about this impact on India. One impact is yen loans. Indian firms like Power Finance Corporation, Rural Electrification Corporation, NLC India hold large yen loans for infrastructure via Japan Bank for International Cooperation. Now they have to pay back this loan, but interest rates have become expensive. Yen has become expensive because yen has appreciated. So these corporations would be in trouble. Plus foreign investment would decline. We just talked about FPI outflows from Indian equities and rupee depreciation if carry trades unwind, and they will, though if carry trades unwind. Okay, so FPI outflows would happen because carry trade would stop, unwind, and rupee will depreciate because carry trade would stop or unwind, would reduce. But though India's macroeconomic fundamentals are still strong, so this would mean that foreign investors won't be that quick to get out of India. They would want to, but because India's attraction is such, because of its good macroeconomic fundamentals, that they would think twice before getting out of India. So that might save India a little. But mostly, there would be foreign capital outflow pressure from India. Okay, so this is the connection. Okay, and globally, what will be this its impact on the entire world? Well, most of the money in the world was because of this yen carry trade. Yen carry trade basically fueled global liquidity, because the people who carried out this yen carry trade did not just invest in India, they invested in many countries. So there was global flush of liquidity. Now this will dry up. So it would impact many other countries. To Japan, well, for Japan, this is going to be good because it would soften inflation, appreciate yen. So people of Japan would be happy, but not other countries who are dependent on this yen carry trade. You understand? Okay, that's about it. Now let's quickly shift our focus to third news item, and that is how states regulate private schools. Now, why was this in the news? You see, many people have complained for many years that Delhi private schools and many private schools in the entire country, they charge hefty fees. Education in these schools has become unaffordable. Okay, extremely unaffordable, and they are exploiting middle class parents and rich parents together. Therefore, there was this need that was felt that we need to put some regulation on the fees charged by these schools, put some cap, or ask for some justification whenever they increase fees. Now, many states have acted along those lines. Recently, Delhi passed a law to basically regulate private schools' fees. Now, private schools have argued that it is their fundamental right to charge whatever fees they are charging. Okay? Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause G gives you right to profession. So whatever business trade you are professing or whatever business trade you are doing, you have complete freedom to do that. Okay, this is a guaranteed fundamental right. And private schools say that we are doing a business. and it is protected under fundamental rights, Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause G, that we have the freedom to practice our trade profession. So we are doing so, but now you are stopping us. Little do they understand that along with this fundamental right, there are reasonable restrictions as well. Okay? And reasonable restrictions are public good, morality, public order. All these are reasonable restrictions which you all are aware of. Now, who will decide which reasonable restrictions would apply to this private schools thing, and whether these reasonable restrictions are reasonable for these private schools? If states are reducing their fees, is it reasonable restriction or is it undue trampling of fundamental rights? Who would decide? Supreme Court would, high courts would. And high courts have said that yes, schools are free, but you cannot charge undue fees. Okay? And schools have said that state governments have the right to apply reasonable restrictions to the fees charged by these schools. So Delhi government's law is completely permissible under the Constitution of India as per Supreme Court. So this is the entire matter. Okay, so let's talk about this entire matter. I have explained or given you a brief background, brief context of this entire matter. Now let's talk about the specifics very quickly. Okay, so let's begin. So how states regulate private schools? So Delhi School Education Transparency in Fixation and Regulation of Fees Act 2025, notified by LG of Delhi, introduces three-tier committee system to scrutinize private school fee hikes, requiring 15% parental support for complaints. If parents complain that this is too much, then at least 15% parents should complain, and when they do, that complaint would be registered. So this is also as per the new law. This addresses arbitrary increases amid parent-school tensions, because parents have been complaining that these private schools, in the name of education, are exploiting us, charging undue fees. Now, what is the judicial framework? So Supreme Court ruled on this matter in a very landmark case called TMA Pai Foundation versus State of Karnataka. In that case, the Supreme Court held that private unaided schools have the autonomy, have the freedom to determine their own fees. So Supreme Court gave them complete freedom to determine their own fees. But later Supreme Court clarified that this autonomy is not absolute. Schools are entitled to a reasonable surplus. They can earn reasonable profit, but that should be reasonable, not undue. That was clarified by the Supreme Court. Then the question was, schools challenged this. Okay, private schools challenged this. Private schools said that Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause G gives them the right to practice their profession. They are practicing their profession. And in the practice of their profession, they can charge whatever fees they want. Okay. So they basically cited their fundamental right and went to the Supreme Court. They challenged this. Clear? Now, the government basically argued against this challenge of private schools. Government said that yes, you have this right, but these rights also have reasonable restrictions. Now, who would decide what are reasonable restrictions? Well, the government said that when we cap your fees, limit your fees, that is reasonable restriction. The schools have said that is not reasonable restriction. So the matter went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court clarified in Modern School versus Union of India that states have the authority to regulate fees. States can apply some form of regulation to private schools' fees. Yes, those regulations by state governments cannot be arbitrary. Then courts would step in and say, no, you cannot trample private schools. But if those regulations on private schools is fair and reasonable, courts would allow it. And in that regard, Delhi has passed this law, Tamil Nadu has passed this law, and many other states have passed this law regulating private schools' fees so that education becomes affordable, accessible to all. Good quality education. Make sense? And this exploitation of parents also stops, because there has been a lot that is said in the media criticizing these private schools, especially Delhi private schools. They have been really obnoxious in this matter. Clear? So I hope you got the idea of this, or you know. Basically, I'm assuming you already know about this Article 19. But if some of you did not, now you know. Okay, this is the same article which talks about freedom of speech and expression. Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. Nonetheless, we'll have some discussion on freedom of speech and expression sometime later. And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it would add more value if you revise this lecture. and you're consistent and regular with it also. So please do not forget to revise this lecture. The notes are available on our Telegram channel, and the link to our Telegram channel is in the comment section below. So do revise this lecture from the notes. It's very important. On that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.